I do not know if Arch Manning is going to play in this football game. Can Texas beat Vandy without Arch? I'm going to, throw that out there to you, Gerald, first. Do you think Texas can beat Vandy with Matthew Caldwell as the quarterback?
Such an easy question. No, and I don't necessarily know how much the game plan has to change with or without Arch, because Mississippi State, the way Mississippi State is going to play this game, the way they played all of their games, they're going to try to keep Texas offense off the field, right? That's what Vandy does, right? They try to keep the opponent off the field. They milk the clock. They press that advantage, and ultimately, like, Texas is going to have to hit big plays, because that's the question. Now, I think Texas athletes, man to man, regardless of who's the quarterback, can out athlete the guys at Vandy. But can they capitalize on that? Are they able to? I don't know if the questions that I have change with the quarterback. It's really the way to say it. Like, the things that worry me about Texas are slow starts and empty frames, right? Because you're going to get so few possessions in this game. So whether it's Arch Manning, because Texas had that issue with Arch Manning, can Texas avoid the slow starts? Can Texas avoid turning in a whole quarter without, crossing the 50? That question is there regardless of who it is. Now, that being said, Matthew Caldwell is a solid. When we've seen him, he's a solid quarterback. He's got good, and Vandy's defense is not all that great. Like, it's a good defense, right? But their defense is buoyed by the fact that they're rarely on the field. They're on the field less than any other team you're going to play. So, part of the issue there is, like, again, can Matthew Caldwell operate the offense in a way that's just like hit the layups, right? Hit the easy ones when you're on the field, get the ball to your athletes in space and let them be athletes. Can Texas win at the point of attack? Like, those are the things that don't really necessarily change for me, whoever the quarterback is. And honestly, maybe Matthew Caldwell hits some of the easier layups early on to get the offense going in rhythm and to get some running room, because I do think the running backs are going to have a lot to say about this game.
No, I agree. I actually think for this game, Matthew Caldwell might actually be a little bit better of an option, as long as he doesn't try to do things outside of his nature. And what I mean by that is Arch Manning is pretty good with, trying to create out of, the play itself. When the play's dead, he doesn't stop. He goes, finds a way to make a play. I don't need Matthew Caldwell doing that in this game. In fact, if he does that in this game, I actually think Texas loses this football game if he is the starting quarterback. I just need him to operate the offense efficiently. Now, again, to win big-time games like versus A&M and Georgia, you can't do that. You can't just nickel and dime your way down the field and expect to win 17-13. You're not going to win the football game that way. I do think you can do that versus Vanderbilt because, like you said, I don't think their defense is that good. They're only good because their offense stays on the field the whole time. So it's going to be really up to me. The defense is going to have to be the major thing. And coming off a really bad performance, they're going to have to get back to their old selves. You're going to have to stop this team on third down. If you can stop this team on third down and put their defense out there and expose them more, I think Texas has a chance to, have some explosive plays like a swing pass to Ryan Wingo that he breaks and goes for 40 to 50 yards. I think you can do that. I do need the offensive line to be healthy, though. That's what scares me actually the most, because DJ Campbell apparently does have leg swelling. He did come back in the game. He needs to be healthy, because if we're throwing Matthew Caldwell behind Connor Stroh, Connor Robertson, and Nick Brooks, not a recipe for success. Because I will say Vanderbilt's defensive line is the best unit on their defense, in my opinion. So Miles Capers, I believe his name is a all SEC type player, guys. He's got like 9.5 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks. That guy will eat if we allow him to versus that offensive line. So running game has to get going a little bit. Does not need to be great. Can you give me 3.5, 4 yards per carry consistently? Can Matthew Caldwell hit these efficient throws? And if he does that, I think we can beat Vanderbilt with Matthew Caldwell. But, it's still a big task. This is a really solid football team. This is without a doubt a top 15 football team in the country by the end of the year. That's probably what they're going to end up as. And they can definitely beat Texas.
Yeah, I would honestly love to see a game plan similar to what Stark did for OU with this game, where it's a lot of side to side, a lot of getting the ball in your playmakers' hands in space. Because again, Vanderbilt has a good defense, but I don't think they have an athlete that can match up with a Ryan Wingo. They don't have an athlete that can match up with DeAndre Moore or Ryan Niblett in space, right? They don't have those guys. So like that to me has to be the game plan. If I get those guys in space, hit crossing routes underneath, find a guy in the flat. Again, That to me is the game plan that wins this game, regardless of the quarterback. And I think, again, Matthew Caldwell has shown that he can put the ball on a spot if he needs to. You don't want him to have to make 4, 5, 6, 7 big time throws in the game. But if he can hit the layups, make 1 or 2 big time throws on a 3rd and medium, 3rd and long, it's a very winnable game. And there's a reason why Sark went after him when he did. There's a reason why. Like, they needed him and they thought that he had the tools to operate the offense. So I feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting too, because if Arch is in fact hurt, Matthew Caldwell is a good athlete. He can run the ball, but you're not going to have quarterback design runs, because if he gets knocked out, then you're going to KJ Lacey. So that does neuter you there. It also does, if Arch Manning does play, you don't want this guy to get back-to-back concussions 2 weeks in a row. So I don't think we're going to run him as much, even though I would love to run him in this style of football game. Both of these guys, if you absolutely have to, you can do it. I'm just saying you're not going to see 6+ runs designed for either of these guys. Especially if it's Matthew Caldwell, because again, you cannot go to KJ Lacey in this football game. You will lose the football game if your 3rd string quarterback is playing in this game. Vanderbilt, guys, the easiest comparison I can make. They are a much highly elevated Kentucky. That's what they are. They want to control the line of scrimmage, control the clock. Kentucky was able to do that versus Texas, but their offense is abysmal. They're not a good football team. Vanderbilt does that, they will win this football game by 10+ points, because they are a good football team. So we have to control the line of scrimmage. We have to control the tempo. And I think we can do that with Matthew Caldwell. I really do. So, Gerald, I will ask you this question. I'm not going to ask for the score with Matthew Caldwell, but what percentage do you give Texas of winning this game with Matthew Caldwell compared to Arch Manning?
I mean, I still think it's probably, again, I feel like a 60-40. I think it's still either, I think it's probably, and again, so much of it is the Texas defense. I think Texas's defense matches up really well with what Vanderbilt wants to do. And I also think, again, athlete to athlete, I still think Texas probably is, has the advantage there and get those guys in space. Because again, I don't know if there's a guy on Vandy's roster that can run with the horses that Texas has if they get in a rhythm.
No, I think that's fair. I kind of look at it as it's like 55-45 for me, and it kind of flips. If Matthew Caldwell's the starter, I think it's 55-45 Vandy. If Arch started, 55-45 Texas. I think Arch does make a difference, especially with his legs and his physicality that he brings. Matthew Caldwell's not running anyone over. He'll be able to run around some people, but he's not able to lower his shoulder and get that extra yard. And again, in this type of game, that extra 1 to 2 yards can win you the football game. So that's how I feel about this game with Matthew Caldwell. Again, guys, please hit that like button. Please subscribe down below and let us know in the comment sections how you feel if Matthew Caldwell plays this game for Texas.